Okay, this is 5.5, dealing with the cos ratio or the cosine ratio. One thing you'll notice between cos and tan is it's the exact same steps we did for sine. Once you figured out how to solve one trig ratio, the other two are almost the identical solutions, except you're dealing with different sides. For the sake of cosine, you're dealing with when you have a hypotenuse or an adjacent, or you're trying to find one of the two. You're dealing with an angle. Everything else, all the steps for solving are the exact same thing. So, again, make sure your calculator is set to degrees. If it's not in degrees, it'll give you the wrong answers. And again, you'll be given a question or you'll be asked to say, hey, find the missing side. Step one is always going to be to label your triangle, no matter what you do. So, based off of 38 degrees, this is our opposite length. Although that doesn't really help us because we're trying to use our 18 meters and we're trying to find our unknown. We know the longest side is the hypotenuse, and the smallest side right next to your angle is the adjacent. So, we don't really care about the opposite. We're going to look at SOHCAHTOA and see which of our three trig ratios uses adjacent and hypotenuse, which we know cos does, our cosine ratio. Once we picked the right formula, we fill it out. Cos theta equals a over h, so the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. We then fill in our formula. Cos of our angle, which is 38, equals the adjacent, which we do not know, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 18. Cos of 38, is 0.7880. And again, I wouldn't stop here. I always float this number in my calculator, so even though I'm only writing 0.7880, I'm using this long number in my calculations. This is going to equal the adjacent divided by 18. Our goal is to get the adjacent by itself, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 18 using algebra, because this is the opposite operation of division. 18 divided by 18 will cancel out, and 18 times 0.780 gives us the adjacent length of 14.184. And we're dealing with meters. So again, the steps for solving, really simple. Step one is you're going to label the triangle. Step two is going to be to pick your formula. And step three is to fill in the formula and solve. We'll try another one. So again, step one, we're going to label our triangle. We're going to label our triangle based off of the angle 32. So I know this is my opposite length, this is my hypotenuse, and this is my adjacent. I think of my three trig ratios, and which one uses adjacent and hypotenuse. Sine uses opposite and hypotenuse, so that's not going to work. Cos uses adjacent and hypotenuse, which is what we're after. Tan uses opposite and adjacent, which won't work. So, write out our formula. Cos theta equals the adjacent divided by our hypotenuse. We fill in the formula. Cos of our angle, which is 32, equals the adjacent, which is 10, divided by our unknown, the hypotenuse. hypotenuse of 32 is 0.8480. That's going to equal 10 divided by our unknown hypotenuse. At this point in time, we have to get the hypotenuse by itself. We could do the shortcut, and if you understand that, perfect. For those of you who don't, I'll go with the slow method. I'm going to multiply both sides by the hypotenuse. Again, our goal is to get the hypotenuse by itself. We now have a hypotenuse times 0.8480. This equals 10. I'm going to divide both sides by 0.8480 in order to get it by itself, because when I divide two numbers that are the same, they cancel out. So now, the hypotenuse equals 10 divided by 0.8480. Which means we have a hypotenuse length of 11.79, and we're dealing with meters. When it comes to all three trig ratios, once you figured out how to do one, the pattern for solving really doesn't change. The only thing that changes when we change our trig ratios is which sides you're going to be using. For 5.5, there's two questions. You want to find your unknown side based off of an angle of 33 degrees and a bottom of 9 meters. Your second question, you're going to find our unknown side based off of 18 degrees and a length of 100 meters. If you have any questions or concerns, I will be online Tuesdays and Thursdays for a tutorial. Otherwise, good luck.